everyone. Welcome back to the Plugged In podcast.
Hello.
Good to be back.
I almost said good morning because it is morning here. We don't often record in the mornings.
No.
It's kind of an afternoon show.
Kind of feeling the lull today.
Yeah, I need some coffee.
None of us have coffee here. That's
problem number one.
That's a problem. We've run up against that before, and here we are again.
I think we learned.
But we are in episode number 18 of the Plugged In podcast. One thing that comes to mind right away is that about a year ago, we were talking about how poor Larita and I were at ice skating.
Yes.
And how Nate is basically a wizard.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know how.
Of course.
I don't know how.
But Mass Youth recently had Friday Night Fellowship.
Yeah.
Let's just start off the podcast. Can you guys give us a brief little recap of Friday Night Fellowship at the ice skating rink in 2024?
Yeah,
Yes.
so we went back to the Pirelli Veterans Arena in Franklin, Massachusetts, which, first of all, they are phenomenal.
Yeah, they're so kind.
They gave us a free assembly room to have pizza. Normally they charge like
Nice.
$100 an hour. They gave it to us for free. So that was awesome.
Sometimes when you're like, I'm the Salvation Army, people are ready to help you out. You know?
Yeah.
true.
And then when you repeat and it's like, hey, I'm coming back, it's, and we have a huge group coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's perks. You get some perks.
Well, no doubt those people bought pizza and other
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, they were awesome. We had a great group. We had about 9 core come out,
Nice.
and I'd say about 75 people, 66 people on the ice, and it was really cool to see some new groups from core that we haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Bring kids to
Which ones?
the things. Athol brought a great group of like
Yeah.
7 kids,
Nice.
8
Awesome.
kids, and
Some friends from camp that we knew. Yep.
Salem North Shore brought a nice group of 7, and that had been a while since we had seen them, and a great group from the Croc was there as well.
Yeah.
So
Shakai got out on the ice.
he did. He got out on the
Nice.
ice.
Yeah, Captain Shakai.
who had the hardest fall?
Okay.
Was there a documented fall?
There was, and actually, I don't know if I can share this, but
Uh-oh.
there's an incident report.
HIPAA?
There was an incident report.
I won't mention names, but there was an incident report that was filled out within the first 5 minutes
Oh.
of the event.
Wow.
A young man fell.
A young
and-
man.
A young man. I won't say what core or what his name
They
is.
tripped in the lobby. They didn't even make it
Oh,
to the
yeah.
Well, ended up cracking his tooth.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Now I feel
unfortunately.
bad that I laughed.
Yeah.
It was an incident.
So
It was an
yeah,
incident.
Okay.
but the arena was great. They brought ice. They brought a little baggie to put his little tooth in and take home with him.
Nate's
I don't know, as
laughing, so that's a
memento.
problem too.
Oh, my goodness.
And then,
I have
but
to edit this out.
yeah, I don't know, but he seemed to be okay.
Yeah.
Other than
Yeah.
that incident to start the night.
Sometimes that hurts your pride more than it does physically.
I think it did because he was asking for a mask to wear the whole night.
Oh, no.
Poor thing.
All right.
Other than that,
But it was a great night. It was a
Other than
phenomenal.
that- other than that-
poor guy.
We do have Friday Night Fellowship coming up in March.
Yeah,
I know details about that are coming out soon.
Yep.
We'll be moving back to, we're kind of doing like an every other, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yep.
doing like a worship and kind of study type of format. And then we're doing like a fun fellowship type of event.
Yeah. Yep.
So in March, that's coming up soon. Information is going to come out about Friday Night Fellowship. I do have an opening rant today.
Oh boy.
For you listeners out there, I'm sure that you can imagine like the worst weekend of your entire life. Like I just experienced mine.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just me; it was the whole family. It was a whole family endeavor. So I went to
Everyone involved.
I went to the New York area.
Yep.
I went to help call the recording session with the New York staff band for their most recent,
awesome.
their newest album is going to come out.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun. The recording session was great. So, but the first thing that happened is I was basically sick as a dog. My throat was swelling up, like I didn't feel great. I told Nate off the air, I think that for the past like 5 or 6 days, I'm on every single antihistamine that you could possibly buy from CVS, Walgreens. Like,
So you're also like tired as can be because you're like,
I'm trying to buy the boxes that are the non-drowsy ones,
my
but I'm
gosh.
just at this point I'm just
Anything.
like,
What's in
I'll
stock?
take anything to get
Right.
to get me healthy.
the walking pharmacy.
So that was the first thing. I had to be like razor sharp focus, and it was like really hard to work my way through these
Yes.
antihistamines in my brain. But anyways, so after the recording session, it was a holiday weekend, President's Day on Monday,
Right.
and my wife and I had the thought, okay, instead of me coming back after the recording session, why don't we meet halfway in Connecticut?
nice.
We'll stay at a hotel, and we'll take the kids swimming.
Awesome.
It'll be a great weekend.
Perfect.
Right.
So at the end of the recording session, I started to get texts from my wife that was just like,
Oh no.
I don't know why we I don't know why we did
Why
this.
why do we do
was
this?
this?
Why do we do this to ourselves?
So she packed up the dog, the 2 kids.
Shoot.
Made this like 2-hour drive into Connecticut, and the kids weren't doing great in the car. The dog wasn't doing great in the car. She gets to the hotel, and it's not like there's not great things happening. So of course they put us on the 4th floor, like a half a mile away from the elevator.
Nice.
So
oh my gosh.
I'm not there yet. I'm still in the recording session. So she arrives with our dog and with our 2 like infant children and our luggage. And like a hero is trying to make her way like into the hotel room. Yeah. So every parent's like worst nightmare. The dog is like not behaving well. And so the 2 kids are in the hotel room. The dog is in the hallway and like sneaks out and starts to run down. So Heather like just instinctively goes to grab the dog. The hotel door closes.
Oh no.
With the 2 kids inside.
Oh my gosh.
I know. So like
panic.
Yeah.
Panic.
Oh, she's texting me like, oh my gosh, this is like the worst possible thing. So like her heart drops. Caleb was on the other side of the door and she was able to instruct him, Caleb, can you turn the handle for mommy? And he was able to turn the handle and open the door. So like,
oh my gosh, I have like goosebumps.
Yeah, I need to speed through the rest of this, but we get into the hotel room and it smells like heavy smoke.
Lovely.
So that was like number 1.
Yeah, not good.
Later, the dog went to use the bathroom and I don't know how to say this like over
in the
air.
room.
No. We took her out, or Heather took her outside.
Okay,
but she had blood in her urine. So the dog's like having some issues. Caleb ends up not sleeping that night, so he wakes up about 3:00 in the morning.
No,
and is just like, that's it. Like he's on our bed, he's kicking us in the face, he's rolling around, he's like ready to play.
He's awake.
So if you have any toddler that doesn't sleep at night, you know the next day is going to be like, so it gets worse.
Yes.
So we don't sleep that night. There is also a party happening the floor above us that is like going on at like 3, 4, 5 a.m.
Really, just an average President's Day party. That's all.
Really.
Yeah.
So I'm like sick as a dog. Neither one of us slept. Caleb didn't sleep. In the morning, we go to the breakfast buffet. This might be the worst part. So we're in the hotel breakfast buffet.
Yeah.
And in the lobby, Heather is holding baby Mackenzie.
Oh no.
In line for the food.
Yeah.
Mackenzie projectile vomits her entire bottle. Like, like across the entire breakfast buffet.
Oh no.
And on top of that, Caleb's at an age where like when Mackenzie has thrown up before, he like steps in it and he's like, oh, that's yucky. So like I scoop Caleb, I drag him out of there. Mackenzie's like crying. Heather's like mortified, like getting towels and trying to wipe this up. We like, it was crazy. There's more. Do you have time for more? Do we have time for more?
Just lay it out. Let's go.
Okay, so after that happens, we leave the breakfast buffet. We decide to take the kids swimming still. There's like 1 billion kids in the pool. So Caleb's more or less intimidated.
Right.
So we like quote unquote swam, in the pool for what
Put
that was.
your toes in,
right. We go to a restaurant after we leave the hotel. And that's a horrible experience. And like toddler refusing to eat food, go to the bathroom, like blah, blah. And then here's the keystone or the capstone, the end of the story. We leave. We have 2 cars, obviously. We came separately. We leave the restaurant. We decide to meet up at a Dunkin', get a coffee, and then we're going to drive home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heather drives to the wrong Dunkin'.
Oh, man.
I call her on the phone to say, hey, where are you? When she answers the phone, she gets pulled over by a cop because in Connecticut you can't be on your phone. So
you set her up, bro.
Yeah. So the officer basically like walks up and like Heather didn't say this, but in her mind, she's just like, just write me a ticket.
Yeah.
I don't even care.
Don't explain it to me. I don't have time or the mental capacity.
Oh man.
My gosh.
So then Heather drove home with the kids and Mackenzie threw up 2 more times in the car.
Oh, jeez.
And so we made it home.
You all lived.
And then the next day was Mackenzie's birthday.
Yay!
And you guys had some great photos of your birthday on Facebook, so it looked like
it was all fake. It was all photoshopped. Fake happiness is what was going on.
Oh, that's the true life of a parent, right
there. That was way too long of a rant.
Oh my gosh, Matt!
I feel like someone out there can be like worst weekend of my life.
Yeah,
something like that.
You need to get that out, man.
Oh my!
It's therapeutic.
That's insane.
That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Wow. God bless you guys.
Well, we had, like, just in the past couple weeks, had some wild things happen. Nothing as wild as Matt.
Yeah.
But Nate, what happened in Lowell?
Oh, yeah. So I'm a very forgetful person. During the summer at camp, I will lose my keys maybe 10 times a day.
With the Apple tag.
With the Apple
he
tag,
loses his
I'll
things.
lose them. Yeah.
I'll say at DHQ here, so Nate loses his keys so much that he just, when he unlocks his office door, he
Yes.
just leaves the entire keychain in the door.
I do.
Yeah.
And then he'll come to my office and he'll be like, "Where's my keys?" And I'll be like, "Bro, did you check your door?
Yeah.
They're still in your door."
I mean, our house keys are in the door.
Right.
But then he'll say, Larita, have you seen my keys? I think you had them last. I'm like, honey, that's not the reality.
Nope.
Yeah.
But keep going.
It takes a village, so thank you guys for being my village. So I forget things a lot. I'm in Mass Brass. I always forget my folder. Matt will tell you that. There have been many times where I've shown up to things, shown up to concerts, shown up to rehearsals, have not had my folder. But so
I have no comment.
Nope.
so
Good filter. Good filter.
The next episode's rant. Nate and his music.
So 2 Sundays ago.
Sorry, pause. I've also found like 5 folders in cleaning the house, so I
Yeah.
keep finding all of them. Sorry,
You know
keep
how
going.
much music
It's because I practice in so many locations.
Oh, please.
Here's what I'll add to this story. You know how many photocopies I have to make in preparation of people losing folders? Okay, I'm done.
I've killed a lot of trees. I'm sorry.
Keep going. Keep going.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago, it was Junior Soldier Sunday at the Lowell Corps, which was amazing.
Right.
So great. See the junior soldiers really doing their thing and leading in worship. But I was playing in band that day, and I had gone to band practice on Tuesday. I was really excited. I was like, all right, I need to make it in time for preliminary music. So we had Yam the day prior and played in brass here. We get into Lowell. I open up my horn case, and my horn is not in the horn case.
The horn is not there. We brought an empty case.
I brought an empty case, and the horn is literally sitting right now.
He didn't notice.
Bro, how did you pick that up?
I don't know. I don't know.
He was like,
I mean, I've been working out, so maybe it just seemed a little lighter.
oh, there it is.
But,
Somehow it has to compliment you.
No, the horn is still sitting in the chapel here at DHQ in my Yam formation.
No, so we're sitting in chapel at DHQ chapel yesterday. He looks over. He's like, oh, there it is.
Oh yeah,
And I
Chris
was like,
was
oh my
like,
gosh.
is that your horn, bro? I was like, yeah, let me tell you the story.
Oh my goodness.
But I
That's not as bad as the story you told on the podcast when you run it over with your car.
We're just not doing great with this
Yeah.
poor horn is the bottom line.
I'm really thankful for Ernie McNess. If people know Ernie at the
Yes.
Lowell Corps, he's the bandmaster there.
Bandmaster Ernest.
He is great, man. He pulled out this Boozy and Hawks horn and was ready to go. Gave me the whole history about how this horn was.
Of course he did. That's
dad's.
amazing.
It was
Of course.
his dad's horn
Yeah.
from, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. And that was one of the nicest horns I've ever played.
That's awesome.
So
Yes.
what turned out to be... it turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Oh
really,
my
you know?
gosh.
So thank you, Ernie McNess. You're my hero.
That story
Such a
like shocks me
lunatic.
0%.
No.
Like
Anyone surprised?
It's just a day in the life.
Ernie probably had 6 horns
Yeah.
down there.
Oh, he was
that
ready to go.
That were oiled up,
Yes.
like ready to go.
Yeah.
The social media content for this episode will be: are you surprised that Nate forgot his horn? Are you surprised that Ernie was ready? Are you surprised? That'll be the content.
Yeah. Shout out to Ernie.
I like that.
He's the man.
Good story. What about you, Larita?
Okay, so mine, you have to find the thread in mine because it goes a different route. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we have been like really intentional about making meals and like eating lower carb and like trying with different like veggies and just really trying to be intentional about food.
Yep.
And so I was on Amazon a couple days ago, and you know those veggie choppers that you like put the veggie in and you like
Yep.
you see them all over TikTok, and I've been obsessed with them, but I haven't bought one. One was on sale. I was like, let me do this. So I get the veggie chopper. I'm chopping veggies. I'm making like omelet bites to freeze. I was on a roll.
Yeah. She was.
Then I'm slicing carrots to put in our salad. And they come with that like that guard. Like you put the veggie in the guard.
Yeah.
But the carrots were getting too thin. So I
You see where this is
I
going.
put the guard to the side.
Oh no.
And then I'm like chopping, and I get the slightest bit distracted, and like
No.
I
Oh.
sliced the carrot, and it took a chunk of my finger,
Oh man.
like right on the knuckle. And so I mean, it's
immediately my first thought is it could have been worse.
100% could have been worse.
Yeah,
and then like I send like a text to our family chat, and my dad's telling me how he's done worse. I'm like, thanks
With
for
pictures, with
yeah.
pictures.
I'm like, thanks for affirming me, Dad. But this is about me. So But anyway, so I get this chunk of my finger off. Jackson's like, I need to see it. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness, Mom, your finger. So it was a whole saga. Yeah. Wrap my finger. And of course, it's my middle finger. So I have to like hold my hand up to stop the bleed. It was a whole thing. But then Nate proceeds to tell me, he's like, it could be worse. And I was like, I know, honey. I know it can be worse. Let me just wallow in my, whatever right now. He's like, did you know that here comes Nate with his facts. Yeah. Did you know in 2007 that someone found a finger in a Wendy's chili? And I was like, what?
I was like, you never heard this before?
Yeah.
Was that in Quincy, Illinois?
I don't know.
I reread the story because I feel like that's a story of like my childhood.
It's an urban legend passed on from generation to generation.
So then that prompts a whole like deep dive into the Wendy's chili finger.
Chili saga.
But then we find out that was all a hoax. Oh. But listen, so the woman planted planted the finger in her own chili.
Didn't she get a ton of money?
I think so. I don't know if she had to pay it back or what, but she like planted it.
Wow.
She like got a finger.
Where do you get a finger?
Her husband works in like some
black market,
industrial. So anyway, that prompted the whole thing. But then here's the end of the thread. It reminded me when we've already said the name, Wendy's, when we were driving one day, I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
We stopped at a Wendy's on one of our travels. I think I just got an iced tea.
Yep.
Drank the iced tea. And we had like hours to go. We get home and I'm like, shake the iced tea. I'm like, how is there still ice in this thing? Like, this is amazing.
Oh.
I open it up.
My goodness.
There was a used chapstick in my Wendy's cup.
It's fantastic.
In the bottom.
You could be a millionaire.
I could have.
Well, she tweeted at Wendy's and Wendy's was like, oh, here's some coupons. It's like,
they were like,
what?
They were like, they wrote and they said, oh, DM us with like the store number. And so I was in contact and they were like, well, send us your address. We'd love to send you something. I was like, I really don't want any food from you at this moment.
Baconators for life.
I know Nate was like, they offered you coupons?
Yeah. It's like, oh, you didn't like your experience? Come eat with us again.
But then you also want the coupons. Anyway, it was just like our dinner conversation last night was that whole thread. And I was like, wow, we've covered a lot because I chopped my finger on the carrot chopper.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you still have your finger.
I know. It could have been worse.
We could have ate your finger for dinner by accident.
Okay.
I need to rewind quite a bit in that story because I just have to say, so you mentioned your dad and like giving, he's a man's man.
Yes.
And he gives fatherly advice and like, but I feel like he's also, I don't know your family that well, but he seems very protective of his daughters.
Yes.
And one of the better videos that I have seen in a long time was on social media. So your sister...
I'm so scared.
No, I think you're going to know in a second. She's convincing your dad at the table that she did a really good thing by paying $400, $100 per tire to get specialty air put in them. And
premium air.
Your dad is literally like doing everything inside of him to not be like, you did what?
He's like, Larissa, I wish you would have told me.
It's so good. But Larissa's playing it up. It's a prank.
Yes.
It's a prank. She's just like, wait, I didn't do a good thing.
Yeah.
I thought I was like taking care of my vehicle. And he's like, $400?
You can see the moment it clicks because she's like, so I shouldn't have paid $100 per tire.
Oh,
and then he pauses for a second. He's like, you paid $400? You're joking. Yeah. Like he was instantly, but it was so cute because he did not at first respond the way she wanted him to. She wanted him to instantly be like, what? Yeah. But he was like,
he was really gentle at the beginning. And then
Larissa just did not know how to respond. Larissa's all about the pranks. We don't ever know what's true, what's not.
Oh, it was so good.
It was good. It was good.
I loved it. It was like one of those like when you see it on social media. I probably watched it like 4 times. So I was like, this is just great.
Then you have my obnoxious laugh in the background, so it's all good.
We're going to take a quick break here at the Plugged In Podcast, and when we come back, we have 3 devotional thoughts, brief ones, to share with you, and then we'll get you on your way. So just to recap, this is episode number 18 of the Plugged In Podcast. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Plugged In Podcast. This is part 2 of episode number 18. We have a couple of devotional thoughts for you today to sink your teeth into or sink your brain into? I don't know.
Sink
Any
your
of the
heart
things.
into.
Yeah,
Any of those things would work.
I was going with the cliche, but then I was just like, it doesn't really work. I'll start today. So my thought is simple. It's just you guys know that my brain works in song most of the time. So as we come into the Easter season, you start to get familiar tunes that pop up. And
True.
One of my all-time favorite hymns has this lyric. It says, Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain. He washed it white as snow.
Yeah.
My two favorite parts about that are the choices of words of color, like crimson.
Yeah.
That's like such a
Deep.
It's a weighty word. And then he washed it white as snow. I want to read this verse. This is a familiar one, but it's Romans 5:6-8. You see, just at the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person, someone might possibly dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us.
Yeah.
I have a friend that is like, I feel like in the most recent, I'm not explaining this very well. He's brushing up with suicidal thoughts on like a pretty regular basis.
Okay.
And it has to do with different kind of addiction and just the scenarios and circumstances he finds himself in. And I was just recently hit with this verse. I think we've talked about like at Christmas time, you kind of like, once you internalize the story, I don't know if you think about how remarkable it is anymore.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. Well, I mean, about Jesus' entire life on earth. But at the end of his ministry, at the end of his life, you come down to this like ultimate sacrifice.
Right.
And when you think of like the heroes in the form of today in this like hyper world we live of like superhero movies,
Right.
even when you think of a superhero, you may not think of the first thing being like that person's willing to die.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To die for the people that he's protecting.
Right.
So while Christ went to die on that cross, and I think the part about it that we internalize and we just kind of like, he died for me. Christ died for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't just die for me.
Yeah.
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 And he didn't just die for Christians, or he didn't just die for people that are trying hard.
Yeah.
But he died for the least of these.
Yeah.
And he died for all of us.
Yep.
And that was God's plan. Like that was the blueprint from the beginning. And so I've just been thinking about my friend, and I'm, just trying to offer gentle encouragement.
Yeah.
And you're kind of always in a situation where you don't really know what to say.
Yeah.
You don't want to push them away, and you don't want to overwhelm.
Yeah.
But you remind them that, you love them.
Right.
You think about them.
Yeah.
You care about them. But ultimately, I've just been thinking about, as we come closer to Easter, Christ died for me, but he also died for this person.
Yes.
And whatever situation they find themselves in, that was part of God's plan.
Yeah.
And so that's just been kind of on my mind, this idea of ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
And, you can pin it on yourself. Like, would I be willing to die for my friend who's having suicidal thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It is tough.
Would I give up my own life? I don't know. So anyways, there's no ultimate resolution in that thought other than the fact that there is comfort in knowing that the death wasn't the final destination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of been on my mind today. And I'm sure that people out there are, now we're in the Lent season. So, I mean, there's been a lot of talk and chatter and thought about Easter and what it means and the journey to the cross, and then ultimately rising again.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
You want to go and eat?
Sure, I can go. Well, if you're anything like me, you're probably over the political season already.
Done.
Yeah, right?
All set.
Check.
And it just seems like every day another soundbite comes out of some ridiculous statement or some accusation or some blame game or
something that sounds like this.
yeah, something like that, right? With subtitles on the bottom.
Yeah, let me subtitle that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
bad. I'm sorry.
you're good, Matt. You're good. But I don't know what it is. I go to the gym at night and they have CNN and they have Fox News right there.
Yep.
When I'm on the elliptical. And so I'm just like, I'm already mad that I'm like exerting energy and running. And then I have to look up and read like, oh, what ridiculous statement was said today. And this season really breeds a lot of just hostility and division and conflict.
Yeah.
And it just speaks to a larger problem in our world that we live with people that we don't necessarily agree with. And sometimes that can lead us into sin. But sometimes it gives us opportunities to be a redeeming presence in the midst of that. And so I've been reading this book, Live in Grace, Walk in Love, by Bob Goff. It's a 365-day devotional, very short, really emphasizing the importance of being people of love, being people of grace, being people of mercy, and intentional in the way that we interact with one another, ultimately representing what Christ has done for us. And in one of the passages in here, Bob talks about how oftentimes when he's a speaker, he's an author, he's a pastor, oftentimes he'll interact with people who don't necessarily agree with him or say something against him or really just start conflict with him. And his way of disarming conflict is, rather than adding to the noise, is he will send them a cake pop in the mail with no return address. And it'll just be like disarming conflict with an act of love. And one of the things that he posed in here was, am I more concerned with being right, or am I more concerned with being like Christ? And how oftentimes our opinions, our truths, what we hold and what we value, sometimes we make that primary and central to who we are. And at the expense of those who don't agree or vote or look like us or necessarily, think the same things that we think.
Right.
And that led me to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 2. It says this: be humble, be gentle, be patient, tolerate one another in an atmosphere thick with love. Make every effort to preserve the unity that the Spirit has created, with peace binding you together. And I love that, the way that's described, an atmosphere thick with love. Like if you think of what you're breathing in, right? Is it nourishing you? Is it building you up? Is it contributing to your health and well-being, or is it something that's bringing you down? Is it something that, are you creating an atmosphere where others are walking into hostility and conflict and aggression? And so being humble, being gentle, letting our love be louder than our opinions. It's not an easy process. It's not an easy practice. But when we look at the Gospels and we see how Jesus lived it out, I think of his encounter with Zacchaeus, right? This tax collector that nobody wanted anything to do with. And here's Jesus intentionally going out of his way and spending time with this man. And through the intentional interaction, right? And that act of love, Zacchaeus ends up like following Christ, like leaving behind his entire career and livelihood and whole life history of being this contentious, divisive figure. And I think of the crowds looking in on Jesus, and it says, here's this guy who's hanging out with this notorious sinner. What does he think he's doing? And Jesus, in just this radical act of rebellion, not adding to the noise, but disarming the noise with love. And what a challenge that is for us in our world that is so noisy, so chaotic, so divisive. Can we disarm the noise with love? Can we disarm conflict with love? Can we be more concerned with letting love be louder than our opinions? And what a transformative, what redemptive power is found in that. Yeah. That's what I feel God has been laying on my heart in these days, where it's so much easier to just type something on a computer, hit send, and add to the noise.
It's like it's so true. Like it's just, how often do you read an article or read a post or something like that, and you're just like disgusted by the comments?
Yeah.
And sometimes people will hide behind, I think on Twitter, or what used to be Twitter.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily your name.
Yeah.
You don't have to be verified.
Right.
Same thing with Facebook. Like if you really wanted to make some false identity, there's just like this ability to get on the computer, say whatever you want to say, whatever kind of vitriol or hatred, or just like at the expense of others, and hide behind that computer screen. And it's not that it necessarily wouldn't happen in person, but it's just like, it's unfortunate that technology has driven us to this point of I guess it goes for everything, but so much potential for good that's being twisted for evil and dividing us and pulling us apart. And but I don't know. I like those acts of love. It's tough because you don't want to go out there and promote your acts of love and be like, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
Look at what I'm doing.
Look what I'm doing.
Right.
But on the flip side, I feel like that's also inspiring.
Yeah.
And people need to see that level of good in the world to try to balance out the evil.
Yeah.
There's it's a tough balancing act.
It is.
You don't want to promote yourself. It's almost like those stories need to be told, not necessarily by the person doing them.
Yeah.
It's tough. I don't know how to find that balance.
Because then
you need good news. You need good stories.
Yeah.
You need like acts of love that are out there in the
it's not
conscious
like
of the...
it's not self-promotion. It's more just like recognition of, I don't know, just we always hear about the bad.
Yeah.
It's good to hear about the good.
Yeah.
And also, how do you send a cake pop in the mail? That sounds amazing. I linked onto that.
When I read that, I was like, that's pretty awesome. Like,
I'm like, I think like a Starbucks cake pop, putting it in a bag, I'm like, no, that can't be what happens.
Yeah.
I overthought that part of the story a little too much. But
Thank you, Nate. Just finding a way to highlight the motivation for why you respond that way. Because of Christ's love dwelling in us. I have no help. There's nothing I can do but extend it to you. You know?
Well, that kind of links up to what has been on my heart recently. We were at a core pretty recently, and I was just talking to the core officer there, and we were just talking about some of the things that she's facing with her family, and some of the things that aren't publicized, but we don't necessarily know about until you have that one-on-one conversation. And she was saying that she really inadvertently ended up having a conversation with someone else in the division who had gone through something very similar to what they had gone through. Yeah. And as a result, like this beautiful friendship has kind of blossomed in recent days because one person went through something really difficult and another person's going through something very difficult, but there's just wisdom that is being shared between the two and like, okay, you're going to need this. You're going to need to stop at Starbucks and get yourself coffee on the way. Like there's just this encouragement. And it's a reminder that I've needed in my life too, to know the things that I've gone through, the things that I've experienced, how many times I've come in or I've run into or been in a situation where someone else is going through something very similar. Right. And I'm like, listen, I can empathize with this, but I can also, I can speak into this because I have experienced something very similar. Yeah. And it just continually reminds me of this verse from 2 Corinthians where Paul is writing to the church in Corinth. And he says, speaking about Jesus, he says, Jesus comforts us in our troubles so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort that God has given to us. For the more we suffer for Christ, the more God will shower us with comfort through Christ. Even when we are weighed down with troubles, it is for your comfort and your salvation. For when we ourselves are comforted, we will certainly comfort you. And I remember this verse years ago was linked to a devotional book that I was doing at the time called Streams in the Desert. And there was a line in that devotional that said, Christ comforts us not so that we will be comfortable, but so that we can be comforters of others. And so just it kind of, lessens the severity, not lessens the severity, but it gives purpose to some of the things that we've gone through because the Lord is going to use what we have been brought through to comfort others within our spheres. And just so whatever we're going through, whatever our listeners are going through today, whatever comes to mind as you hear that verse, just a comfort in knowing that not only is the Lord near, but he's going to use whatever we face, not only for his glory, but to be able to be a comforter to a brother or sister who's going to go through something similar. And so it was all just in the past couple of days been re-brought to mind as I've seen it lived out in this friend. So yeah.
There's something I was thinking about just in terms of what we do here on the podcast. I want to encourage listeners out there. You don't have to have a podcast to find someone who you get along with and to just be with them.
Yep.
And share
Yep.
and talk and have a conversation. And when we record this podcast, people won't know this.
Yeah.
But I mean, we press the record button for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it is. But we've probably talked for 45 minutes before we press record.
Right.
And when we're done recording, we might talk for another 30.
Yeah.
And it's because we enjoy being with each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
We bounce ideas off each other. We vent our troubles and we get advice from each other. And that's like, to me, one of the things when you talk about coming out of the COVID era.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff from the COVID era that I like, how do I phrase this? I actually miss it. Like the level of traffic,
Yeah.
like the busyness of the schedule,
Yep.
like all of that stuff kind of like compounds stress in your life.
Yeah.
But when you talk about Christian fellowship,
Yeah.
being with people,
Yeah.
a reason to like physically be in church as opposed to virtually doing it.
Yeah.
It's like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily, I don't know if like I don't want to say anything, I don't know, too risky, but I mean like the coffee and fellowship time
Yes.
with Christians
Yeah.
after the church
Yeah.
can be every bit as spiritually fulfilling
Oh, yeah.
as the actual act of worship
Yeah.
while you're sitting in the pew.
Yep.
And along with what you're saying, like I hope people are still pursuing that concept.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a podcast to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if we didn't, if the podcast ended tomorrow,
Right.
I think we would still
Right.
hang out. We would chat. We
Yeah.
would vent. We'd
Yeah.
share
Yes.
happy stories. Like that's just what it is. And
Yeah.
so going along with what you're saying, if you're listening out there, I hope that you have that person. If you don't have that person or people, you can,
Yeah.
find a Bible study.
Yeah.
Find the core, the church, the place that you feel like you can have that type of social engagement and fulfillment.
Yeah. We need community. We need one another.
I think I've found in myself, it's so easy. It's so easy for me to be an island. I don't have to, we were just talking about this too. I don't have to, rely on others. I can just be, rely on myself. If I don't get it done, it's on me and not a frustration with other people. It's so easy to be an island, but it's so much more fulfilling to collaborate, to work together, to have people, have a community, have people that you trust. It's it can be very scary because it's a very intimidating and, vulnerable process.
Vulnerable, for sure.
Vulnerable is the word.
Yeah.
But that community that's built is something that there just can't be, it can't be quantified in any kind of, measurable or whatever. It's just.
That's one of the things too that I appreciate most about the concept of the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Like I've been fortunate to do a lot of traveling in my life. And
Yeah.
I think I've been to 10 different countries. And in all
crazy.
of them, I have visited a Salvation Army.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's the same.
Yeah.
That's what's like so weird.
Yeah.
It's the same. Like there might be a brass band there.
Yeah.
Or there's a corps officer in uniform.
Yep.
Or someone is like, ready to say hello and pray for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an altar call at the end of the message.
Right.
Like you go around the world and there's this community of believers
Yeah.
that are already your brothers and sisters
Yep.
before you walk in the door.
Yep.
And that's just like, I don't have history in other churches. This has been my whole life.
Right.
But it seems like that is a very unique
Yeah.
concept.
You've already knocked down several barriers before you even step foot in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. I was just going to say, I think a lot of times our culture tells us that if we can't handle it all by ourselves, if we don't have it all together, then something's wrong with us.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is like, we're human beings and we need to have grace for ourselves and recognize that we've been wired for relationship from the dawn of time. Like Christ created Adam and Eve in relationship, to complement each other and to affirm each other and to encourage one another. And then that's how the church, the early church was formed to model community. And so I think anytime that we have an opportunity to lean into community, it teaches us not just a lot about ourselves and those around us that God has placed in our midst, but it teaches us about him because he's a communal God. Great thoughts. Great thoughts.
Great thoughts, everyone.
Yeah.
Around the little table.
Yeah, I like this. Well, guys, that's going to bring us to a wrap of episode number 18 on the Plugged In podcast. Before we go, I do want to say we'll have this person on the podcast pretty soon. But we've said it on social media and it's gone around in emails, but it's been a thrill for me to welcome Chris Molinaro to the music department.
Solid.
And
I'm so excited.
We've mentioned him on the podcast before. I think when it comes to archery and Camp Wonderland and handbells.
Yeah.
Yes.
And handbells.
Yep.
So we'll have Chris on the podcast sometime soon, but he's off to a great start in the music department.
Yes.
And if you're in the Massachusetts circles, you've probably already seen him in some emails, and you've seen him at YAM, and he's already a part, he's already a part of what we do. Yeah.
He's family already.
Yep. So, all right. Well, that's gonna be a wrap.
Yep.
Any closing thoughts?
Nope. Exhausted all my thoughts.
Okay.
No more thoughts.
I hear that imaginary music.
There it is.
There it is. All right, everyone. Episode 18 of the Plugged In Podcast. We will see you
next time.
Oh, he got it.